Welcome to the Marijuana Impaired Driving presentation. This presentation from Officer Ma of the Denver Police Department will cover the basics of marijuana, how it is ingested, and how it impairs the body.
Good afternoon. My name is Alan Ma, and I'm from Denver Police Department. And I've just joined the Denver Police Department this year, actually. And before that, I was with the Lakewood. And I've been the course manager for Colorado's drug recognition expert program and been training the SFSD program. I am very happy to be here today, actually, and it's my honor to be here. The introduction about marijuana. And actually, I use the word cannabis as a category. There's not only just the marijuana, and you guys will find out there's actually other things falls under the same category, almost the same as marijuana. And I hope this presentation will answer some of the questions. That letter up there is the Chinese word for marijuana, and that this word has existed for over 6,000 years. Guess what's the other meaning of this word? Is numb. And it's actually the no pain in Chinese. It's been used as a Chinese medicine for the past 6,000 years and for pain relief. Now, marijuana actually has two different plants and or two different species. One is a cannabis sativa. I want to use this picture right here as take a look at the person on the PowerPoint and in the picture, and then take a look at how high the marijuana trees are. And now take a look at the picture on the right side of the this larger picture. You will see the leaves are actually very thin. So those are marijuana sativa, cannabis sativa. Cannabis sativa is found in an area where there's a lot of moisture and more like in South or Central America, Colombia, those areas, regions. And the effect of cannabis sativa is slightly different than the second species, which is the cannabis indica. Cannabis indica, as you can see the person and see the relative height of the plants. And that is the major difference of these two plants. And one is very short, natural grow, and we're not talking about a controlled indoor grow situation. And the leaves are rather fat and they're short. And I want to show you the next picture. As you can see, this is actually the end product of cannabis indica. Cannabis indica has another chemical actually attached to the plant itself, and it is naturally produced, which is the white resin-like substance on the bud of the cannabis, and that natural producing resin is called a cannabidiol, and it actually produces some other effects that marijuana does not produce naturally. And we'll talk about these effects. First of all, let's talk about cannabis sativa. Cannabis sativa and the cannabis indica, they both produce the same marijuana influence. And however, cannabis sativa has this stimulating effect when you use marijuana. And when you talk to the users, often they will say, well, I use cannabis sativa in the morning when I wake up before I go to work. And then when I go home, I'll use cannabis indica before I go to sleep. So, I mean, there is reason to it. It's because of the resin on the cannabis indica give you this sleepy effect. And they make you very calm and make you very sleepy-like. So that's just a little bit about the marijuana. Several forms of the cannabis that you see on the, actually we as law enforcement see on the streets. Of course, marijuana is the biggest thing, the marijuana cigarettes. People smoke marijuana. And there's also edibles. And the edibles, to me, is probably the most dangerous thing that people can use, because they don't really know the concentration of marijuana or the amount of marijuana, THC, actually contained in the edible. So, of course, some of the dispensaries actually will tell you, well, this is the amount of a percentage of a THC is contained in this hash brown, or whatever it is, or in this brownie, whatever it is. So, and that is edible. And hashish is another form. We don't see hashish as much as before, and especially with the opening of marijuana dispensaries and the legalization of marijuana here in Colorado. And what they do is basically highly concentrated marijuana. Is mainly produced in the Afghanistan and those part of the world. What they do is that they use natural plants. They actually put them in the bag, and they can actually shake or disturb the plant, and the resin fall off of the plants. You can actually make hashish, or you can also use chemical to treat the plants to make hashish. Basically, highly concentrated cannabis or marijuana. And then you have the hash oil. For the past several months, actually, there has been several reports, if I remember, of explosions related to marijuana production. And that explosion is actually caused by hash oil production. And what they do is that they use butane, which is a highly flammable material, and the gas. They use butane to push through marijuana plants. And butane will absorb the THC inside the marijuana plants. The end product is a hash oil. However, when you don't use it properly, the chamber that they actually push the butane through can become a bomb. That's how the explosions happen. So, and in Lakewood, when I worked in Lakewood, and here in Denver, we've heard of several of these explosions. So, but the end product is right here, hash oil. They lace the hash oil or either the hashish with the marijuana cigarettes and smoke it to basically get a more intense influence. And then the medical part of it, and which is widely used in doctor's office, especially other part of the country, as Marinol. They use it for cancer treatment, and basically is appetite stimulant. At the same time, it reduces the nausea effect when people going through the chemotherapy. So that's mainly the two things the Marinol is used for. How do people use it? And of course, smoking is a part, and the lollipop, THC lollipop is another part of using it. And then recently, we've seen a whole bunch of the this part right here. And we call it smoking. It is a smoking, but they call it a vapor and vaporizing. What they do is that they will heat up the marijuana in a chamber, and at a degree of, I think it's 376 Fahrenheit is the ideal temperature. At that temperature, it will not burn the marijuana, but it will vaporize the THC inside the marijuana. And then they put the bag, this bag right here, on top of the chamber, and they put a little fan underneath the heating chamber. And what you have is THC vapor, and then they smoke the vapor. It's clean, and it doesn't have as much smell of odor, with the odor of a burned marijuana to it. And then you have the direct consumption, which is this part right here. They'll crush the marijuana and eat it that way. And I'm going to skip this one, but I want to show one thing is marijuana, as any other drug, it affects not only one part of the brain, but it affects many other parts of the brain. So, and by doing so, it affects several parts of the person's ability to drive, to operate a vehicle safely. And we'll go into the ability part. Some of the negative effects, if marijuana or cannabis is completely positive effects, we as law enforcement we're not going to be as concerned as we are now. So the reason that we are here is because cannabis, when you use cannabis, and there are unwanted side effects, and these unwanted side effects or wanted side effects are dangerous to driving. Just like any other medications too. You take a sleeping pill or you use anti-anxiety medications, there are potential dangers to driving. So what are some of the problems? And I'm going to list only 5 of them. There are several of them, and just the time issues. And then we'll tell you how we as law enforcement officers to detect these impairment. One is altered consciousness and the perceptual distortion, basically the perceptions of time distance, drowsiness, and the impairment in memory, and also the coordination. So let's first talk about the altered consciousness. And when it comes to driving, and when you use too much marijuana, that can be an issue. I at a Thornton and the North Glen checkpoint as one of the DREs serving on the checkpoint. And a lot of the checkpoints now, too, that we deploy DREs to be with the checkpoint, so that if there are drug use, and we can be their front line and to detect that and to do a screening test. And this guy used marijuana, and he was trying to run the checkpoint. At the meantime, he almost ran over a police officer. So I talked to him during the checkpoint. I said, very good student, never had a problem at school, never been in trouble with the law, and has just started using marijuana with his friends. And I said, is this your normal behavior? And after several hours, we finished processing him. And he said, you know, I don't know what's driving me to do this. And he said, I saw the police officer. I said, I have absolutely no intent of stopping my car. So, and those are the departures, really the altered consciousness that the person is exhibiting while driving the car as a result of using cannabis. So, and then the second thing I want to talk about is the perceptual distortion. This one is huge, and this one causes accidents, and this one kills people. There are two different types of distortions that we really worry about. One is perception of time. The other one is a perception of distance. Perception of distance, especially the depth perception, and your ability to estimate the distance. What do you guys think? When someone's ability to estimate the distance is impaired, what kind of problem would we run into when we drive? Following too closely, and stopping away from the intersection, right? They're like 2 miles away waiting for the light to turn green. And or either, here's the two biggest we've seen. One is that their ability to estimate from where they are to where the pedestrian is crossing the road. And that's where the fatal auto-pedestrian accidents happen. Second is that when people making left turns in front of another car, if they misjudge the distance, and that can have a very fatal result. And I was called out on a fatal crash where the driver of the car thought the tow truck was still so far away from him that he decided to slowly take a left turn. Guess what? The tow truck plowed into him, killed his girlfriend right there. And so those are the consequences of as a result of the impairment because of the perceptual distortion as a result of using marijuana. So those are the things that we worry about, and we want to make sure it doesn't happen. And then the drowsiness. People feel lightheaded as a part of the, wanted or the influence they're looking at, that they're looking for when they use marijuana. And however, just like medications too, and there does, to me, or to all of us, does marijuana have a medical benefits? Absolutely. And but just like any other medications, there are unwanted side effects to it too. And which one of them, when we ask them, they always tell me too, well, I feel lightheaded. And how do you feel? I feel lightheaded. And but when they get the marijuana from the marijuana dispensaries, I really have not seen any of them put on their dispensed marijuana bottle any of the signs or labels as such that you would see on the sleeping pill bottle, or people are prescribed with anti-anxiety medications. What do they say? Very standard warning. May cause drowsiness. Alcohol could intensify the effect of drugs, and use caution when driving a car with dangerous machinery. Guess what? Alcohol and the marijuana, when they mix together, the intensity of impairment for both alcohol and the marijuana will increase. There's been a study done where when someone's the alcohol level is at a 0.04, and that person also use one joint or smoke one joint of marijuana, the effect of the intoxication as a result will become 0.14. So 0.04 on the alcohol, pretty low. But when you smoke marijuana and when the marijuana is working with a 0.04 alcohol intoxication, the total effect of intoxication equals to someone drinking alcohol at a level almost at a 0.14. So that's pretty, the higher level of intoxication as a result of the poly-drug use or multi-drug use. We consider alcohol as a drug too, for the purpose of the enforcement. So, and the drowsiness is a big thing. And then impairment in memory and coordination. So for this two, and there are several things that we worry. One is divided attention ability. Marijuana is or cannabis is one of the biggest category that will result in the impairment of divided attention ability, which is the ability that you need to operate a vehicle safely. When you drive a car down the road on Colorado Boulevard, what are some of the things you actually do in order to cause the car to move in that same lane? You got to steer, you need to control the gas, throttle to keep the speed, and to survey the surrounding areas to make sure that there's no passing cars or jumping in front of you or pedestrian. Those are all the ability that you must have in order to operate your car safely and to ensure others are safe. So these functions, when you do these multitasking things together, is called the divided attention ability. And for us as law enforcement, we have several different tests we can actually use on the side of the road to detect whether your divided attention ability is impaired and whether your perception of time and perception of distance has been impaired, and also whether your consciousness is still there.
Thank you for watching this portion of the marijuana impaired driving presentation. The remainder of Officer Ma's presentation on drug recognition experts and the tests that they do on the roadside was not recorded at his request. The remainder of the presentation from toxicologist Sarah Erfer is available in a separate YouTube video. Thank you so much.